all good. You remember me?
I do. Also, but I didn't know you had such an extensive CD collection.
Yeah, I do, man. I do, and it's only the
That's
CDs.
awesome. Oh, you got even more vinyl.
Yeah, obviously. Nowadays, I'm buying like mostly vinyl stuff.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's been a while. I've not spoken to you in ages. I feel like I've not done anything in ages, but it's been coronavirus.
Yeah, none of us have done nothing in ages.
I know. I'm in two minds about it. It's been quite nice just being able to stay home and be a dad and a husband. I've actually quite enjoyed it. But time to get back to work, I think.
So you are ready to start the interview right away, yeah?
Yeah, you're good.
So hello, Ben. How is it going for you at the moment?
Really good. Really good. I'm tired. Obviously I've got 3 kids running around the house that are insane.
Now you notice it because you've been home.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't be surprised if they came running in here and started bouncing on the couch behind us. I think I've locked the door, but we'll see.
Same here, actually. My kid is like 3 years old and he's quite wild. So yeah, I can imagine.
My daughter's about to be 5, my son's about to be 4, and my youngest son, he's just over 1. So all of them are just like just so loud.
So obviously we have all lived in quite different world for the past almost year and a half now already. So how has it actually been to you personally?
Personally, I've actually really enjoyed it. Obviously the circumstances aren't great. Coronavirus has been just horrible for the world to deal with. But I think personally for me, it's allowed me to sort of reset and not reevaluate everything, but just be reintroduced to a somewhat normal life. And I've loved it. I've loved being home with my kids and my wife and just being dad instead of being, Ben Bruce, or instead of being on a stage. I've loved being here. And I've found my bedtime has changed from 1 a.m. to 8 p.m. and instead of waking up at 11 a.m. I'm waking up at 6 a.m. every day to take the kids to school and stuff. So I've enjoyed it. I've really liked it. Yeah, it's been good.
So it will take some time to get used to that old Ben life when the shows return.
I'm nervous about it because I don't know what I'm gonna be like. My kids are gonna be so upset, which is gonna make me so upset, and also just leaving my wife at home to look after all the kids as kind of like a single parent. I don't know. It's gonna be tough for sure for both of us. So we'll see, but I'll be fine. It'll be good.
So as you said, you have had like your kids running around the house. So how has it been for you, like creative wise?
It's funny actually. I kind of use my kids' intuition to help me write music because they're so young, so they don't have any thought process that makes them go, "Oh, I best tell Dad that song's really good, or else it'll hurt his feelings." So when I've been in this is my like studio room in my house, and so as I've been writing new music and writing the demos for the new album which all happen here, I would use my kids. They would come in if I was doing something that was awesome and really energetic and just had a good feel, I guess I would know because they would come running in here and they would go on that couch behind me and they would start jumping up and down and head banging, and Finn, my oldest son, would stand on this table and he'd be playing air guitar, and I was like, I want something good here. And if I was writing something else that maybe wasn't as good, they would come in and they'd be like, they wouldn't have the same energy or reaction to it. So I've quite enjoyed having their input, even though they don't know they're giving me input. It's kind of been quite helpful. And I remember it was the same when I wrote Into the Fire and Alone in a Room. Faye, my daughter, was young. She was, I can't remember how old she was. She was maybe a year or a year and a half old.
Time flies, man.
Yeah, and when I played those songs, she'd be like headbanging. I was like, oh, these are good songs, that means. So helpful. They're helpful. They helped shape the new Asking Alexandria album.
So how has it been like wise, like overall? Has it been easy to be creative in these times when sort of the world is kind of stopped in a way?
It has, and I almost feel like it was necessary for me, because this time at home, like I said, it's allowed me to reconnect with my family and everything, which has been great. But as well, it's allowed me to reconnect with music and sort of remember what it is that made me fall in love with rock and metal in the first place. I've spent so long sat in this room writing, and you can't see this wall in front of me, but there's like Queen pictures and the Beatles and Led Zeppelin, and there's all kinds of bands that I grew up listening to, Metallica and everything, and Nirvana pasted all over these walls. And just sitting here and looking back at all these bands that I grew up loving, as it's like rekindled a love and a passion for rock and metal. It never went away, but I love music so much that, you know, I listen to pop and rock and hip hop and country and blues. But just being here really, really helped me fall in love with rock and metal music, and try and really find that passion again for that genre of music. And I think that's really going to show in this new album. I went back to what it was when I was a kid that made me fall in love with like Metallica and stuff. I feel like I've injected that into this new album. So I'm really excited about it. There's more guitar on this new album than I think there's been on any Asking Alexandria album ever. It's awesome.
Yeah, I actually noticed that it's very guitar driven in a way.
Yeah. So
So
I'm excited. And I get to play guitar solos. Fun.
so speaking about like music in general, for me at least during this pandemic time, I've sort of stick to those old classic albums which I used to listen to from high school, and I grew up as a new metal kid, so bands like Korn, Slipknot, Deftones, System of a Down, Linkin Park, etc. So what kind of stuff had actually you been listening to? Have you been like trying to figure out new bands, or are you feeling the sort of same way that you
Same as
need
you.
some kind of like comfort from the music?
Yeah, same as you. I've just been listening to everything I used to listen to as a kid. You know, obviously I mentioned like Nirvana and Led Zeppelin and Metallica and Pantera. I've been listening to all those bands again. But same as you, I grew up in a new metal world, and so I've been jamming a lot of System of a Down and Linkin Park and Limp Bizkit and yeah, I mean, I've just completely re-fallen in love with rock and metal music. And it's interesting that you feel the same way and the same thing happened. I wonder if it's a comfort thing.
Yeah, I think it is it's sort of easy to get comfort from those classic albums
Yeah, you go
instead
back
of
to when life was good and you were just a kid.
yeah, and I feel that you sort of need a lot of energy to discover something new. It's sort of easier for myself to stick
To
at
slot
those.
back into what you know. Yeah.
Yeah. So as we are talking here, you just actually signed a deal with Better Noise Music, and as a result of that, See What's on the Inside is the title of the album that is gonna drop in October. So
Yeah.
first of all, about the deal, how did you end up signing with Better Noise?
You know, I think there's a lot of things that go on whenever making a decision like that. And we'd been with Sumerian for a very long time, since the beginning of our career. And, you know, I have nothing but good things to say about Sumerian. I think they helped us so much in our career, and they gave us a shot when we were really young. But I think it got to a point where we needed maybe a fresh perspective and a fresh start somewhere else. And, you know, when we were talking and looking around and stuff, Better Noise just seemed to tick all the boxes for us. We were super excited, especially that they have such a huge international team, which
Yeah,
is
they have.
something, you know, so, and over the years, Sumerian's international team they haven't had one really, not a big one anyway, for a long time. And I think it's starting to build now, which is great for them. But I think we really, really feel like we've maybe neglected places like Europe, or Australia or Asia, not by choice, but just it was so much easier when everything was focused on North America, and it was something that we really, really wanted to address, and we really wanted to get back in touch with. I mean, we're British, you know, we're an
Yeah,
English
yeah.
band. So we want to be back in the UK and back in Europe, and we want to travel the world and connect with our fans everywhere else. So, you know, Better Noise ticks that box off right away. They have teams in Europe and the UK and Australia and Asia and all these places. So by signing with them, we're really hoping that we can sort of rekindle that flame overseas around the world. And we actually ended up signing out of their UK office specifically for that reason too, because we really, really want to focus outside of North America. You know, obviously North America will always be a focus too, but we want to share that time now with the rest of the world. So we're excited. I can't wait to get back to Europe. I feel like it's been a long time anyway, but now with this pandemic, I've not been back to England since this pandemic started. I haven't seen my mum or my dad or my sister. My mum's never met my youngest son ever because of this pandemic.
Okay.
So we're ready to get back over that side of the world. We're excited.
But has it also become a bit harder because of Brexit?
That's yet to be seen. We've not even been able to tour. I'm hoping not. It would be a real shame, because genuinely from the bottom of my heart, my favorite place to tour, if I'm going to do a big old tour, I love being in Europe. I love it. It's just bouncing from country to country, Finland to Germany to France to Spain. There's just so much to see and experience.
But also a lot to travel, like travel-wise. It's quite rough for a band as well.
It's really, really tiring. It
Yeah.
really is. But I just love it, you know, and it's something I'm really passionate about, and I enjoy every time we go over there, even though it is hard. So I hope Brexit hasn't made it more difficult, but I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, and now you have also like refueled yourself, so you don't even remember how tough it was. You just want to get back out.
I'm going to get there in 3 weeks, and I'm like, oh my god, this is harder than watching kids.
So
I'm ready.
So now let's focus on see what's on the inside. So at what point did you actually started writing this album? Have you been actually sitting on it for a while now, or?
You know, it's funny. I never stopped writing. So
yeah, you said that to me earlier as well.
Yeah. So after like House on Fire came out, we had a little bit of time where we'd just come off tour, and we were like gearing up to go on tour again, and then COVID hit, and our tours got cancelled, and everything got cancelled. And I was like, well, I'm going to start writing, like I would anyway. So I started writing, and at that point, I was still very much in a similar mindset to when I wrote like A House on Fire. And when we did, I take everything that's going on around me in my life, and that's what fuels it, you know. And I think with Like a House on Fire, I'm super proud of that record. It was something different for us, and we stepped outside the box a little bit. But I think it was just, I hadn't had enough time off to get hungry. And so it was easy to just slot into, okay, this is the songwriting, this is the structure, this is what I'm going to do. So when I started writing See What's on the Inside, I was still kind of in that mentality. And so I was writing and writing and writing, and everything was sounding kind of like a continuation of Like a House on Fire. And then the longer I stayed home, and the more I started delving into exactly what we discussed, back into albums that I listened to when I was a kid, and the more I started connecting with my son Finn over bands like Metallica and Nirvana. He loves it. If Nirvana comes on, or Metallica or Pantera, or something with a bit of aggression or energy or soul, you might want to say, comes on, he goes mental. And so
Dad's kid.
Yeah, so that made me start playing more of that. And then as soon as that happened, I would just sit down and be like, man, I love this. I love this music so much. And that's when I feel like I really things started clicking for me when I was writing See What's on the Inside. There was a lot more guitar, a lot more riffs. I wanted to play guitar solos. I wanted people to be moved by it. I think I noticed a lot of people saying about Like a House on Fire, they were saying, you know, the songs are good, but our fans weren't necessarily getting enough emotion from us oozing from the songs. And I really took that to heart, because you know, we did put emotion behind the songs, we always do, but I was like, well, everyone can't be wrong. you know, maybe we didn't put enough emotion into it. And like I said, as soon as I started reliving my love for metal and rock through Metallica and Pantera and stuff, that's when I was like, oh, this is what was missing. And I was excited to start writing. And then, you know, when I brought the songs to the guys and to Danny, I saw their faces light up and everyone was like, this is awesome. And even Danny, like, you can hear his lyrics and his vocal delivery on See What's on the Inside is just, it's 100 times better than like A House on Fire or even the self-titled. It just oozes passion. And so, yeah, I'm really, really excited about it.
I've only been listening to it through like once because I actually got it today. And I got a feeling that it sort of compiles pretty much all your past albums. Do you agree?
I do. And it's funny because I listen to it now and I'm like, I hear a lot of, well, and it's funny because if you think about Reckless and Relentless and From Death to Destiny, that's who we were still inspired by bands like Metallica and like big metal and rock and roll bands and stuff. And so it's funny that we've gone that way again, but I listen to it and I hear a lot of those records, but just much better, more honed in versions. Like I feel like I know what I'm doing better now.
I think it's like a sort of like a more mature version of those in a way.
Yeah, you know, so it's like if there's a cool riff on From Death to Destiny, they're really cool riffs on See What's on the Inside. If there was passion coming from Danny's vocals on From Death to Destiny, there's a lot of passion coming from his vocals here. And I think it's just From Death to Destiny really amplified, you know, and it feels good. It feels good to sort of tap back into our roots. It's awesome that you picked up on that as well.
Yeah, and I feel it's also like quite diverse song wise. There's quite a lot of like very different songs from each other.
Yeah, but well, that's because, like I mean, anywhere from Led Zeppelin to Queen to Metallica to Pantera like influenced this, and so obviously you've got different ends of the rock or metal spectrum there, and they're all thrown in. And the really cool thing about recording this album was, one, it's the first time Asking Alexandria has recorded an album all together in the same studio since Reckless and Relentless. We haven't done that since then, so that was pretty magic. And the other thing that's really cool, really cool, I think, about this album is because we went back to those roots of Nirvana and Metallica and all that, we wanted to record it as similarly as possible as they did back then. We didn't do analog, but we didn't use a bunch of computer programming. We didn't replace the drum sounds. The drum sounds, we took weeks and weeks miking the drums in different ways to get that sound. The guitars are all recorded through heads and through guitar pedals. So any crazy effects you hear, it's a guitar and a pedal. You know, we didn't grab a bunch of samples from online and we didn't do any of that stuff. And I think that's the first time ever really in our career that we've done that. So everything you hear is played by our hands, and if it's not played by our hands, it's real musicians that have come in, like all the strings and stuff. We had real string players come in and play those strings. So it's a really raw album, and that was just our way of I guess going back to our roots again. It was like, okay, well, when all of our favorite albums were made, they weren't using, they spliced up stuff and samples, and so we didn't want to either.
Okay, so you didn't want to have it like over polished in a way, that you sort of wanted to pay homage to those classic albums in a way. Also, they were recorded back in the days.
Yeah, but we still wanted it to compete with the modern
era.
Yeah. It has to sound sonically huge somehow, whilst also not relying on all these tricks. Like, you know, it's so easy to replace drums with drum samples after they've been played. But we were like, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to make these sound as good as they can. And a lot of that just takes time. You know, what goes in, you get out. And so we really took our time with that, especially with the guitars too. We used like 25 to 30 different guitars. On a lot of the songs, there's like 6 or 7 guitars on one song because different sections needed a different tonality. And we really went to town on this record, and I think it shows.
Yeah, and now that you actually mentioned the way you recorded it, I also feel that it sounds like more tighter as a unit, and that's because you were all
We were all
five, if I remember correctly, the band
all
members. Yeah, all
all
five in the studio at the same time. Yeah.
and it's even so far as like there's piano bits in the songs. On previous albums, we would have just programmed them in and put them in there, like most bands. Nothing wrong with it, but again, we didn't want to do that. So Sam, who's usually the bassist, was like, "I'll learn piano," and he sat there and he learned piano so that it could be one of us playing piano on the album too, which I thought's really cool as well. It would have been so much easier to just program it in, but we didn't want to do that.
So obviously, as a band, you have sort of taken like step and step and step into bigger audiences and into bigger crowds and into bigger festivals and also into bigger venues. So do you take that into consideration in some unconscious way when you are writing new music?
Yeah, we do, because the way a song is heard and perceived in a small club is very different from how a song is perceived in an arena, say, you know. And I think when you're starting to step into arenas and onto big festival stages and stuff, you got to be aware of that world. And you know, something that translates well in a small sweaty club doesn't necessarily translate well in an arena. And that was something that we learned really on the self-titled record. So there were songs like Under Denver, for instance, that moved around a lot. There were loads of crazy fills, drum fills all throughout that song all the time. There was loads of vocal effects and just, it was all, and when we played that live in an arena, it didn't translate. There was too much going on. And you could see it in the energy of the crowd. Like there would be things bouncing off of walls and it kind of just got confusing. And that's when you sort of learn about, or we did anyway, we sort of learned about the Metallica or AC/DC approach to where less is more and less can actually be heavier. Instead of going like brum, 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 if you're just like dun, 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 it's like that is way heavier and way more in your face in a big open room like that. And that was
I was actually going to say you, sorry that I interrupt. I was actually going to say you that most of those classic albums that you have been listening to during this pandemic aren't like the most technical ones.
Mm-hmm.
They are like just very well done, and it's not about the notes, it's how you play them.
And even so, and that's something else we discovered too while doing this record, is even some of those, like, it sounds like you're doing less, but it's so much harder to play and record and capture because it's like every note has to count. So there's a lot of like clean guitar work on this album that at first listen, it sounds beautiful. And you might think, oh, that sounds simple. But if you try and play it and perform it well, it's like, this is actually quite hard. And I think Metallica even had a lot of stuff like that in songs, like whether it's Battery or One, there was a lot of clean guitar where as a kid, I was like, that's pretty easy. And you'd learn it. And I go, yeah, I could play that. But now I'm like, well, I wasn't playing it right, or I wasn't playing it well. And I think that's a huge part of it. So that definitely was on our mind, definitely on my mind a lot when I was writing a lot of these songs. Yeah.
And it's funny that people sort of bash AC/DC for making like similar albums, but try do the same yourself. It doesn't happen like that. It's not easy.
It's not easy. It's not, and that's what makes it so great. That's what makes it so much fun to try. For me, anyway, I left the studio a much better guitarist than I walked in, and our producer said that too. We were there for like 8 weeks, 9 weeks, and when I was leaving, he pulled me aside and was like, "I'm proud of you." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He was like, "You really stepped up to the plate on this album." And he said, "You're leaving a better musician, a better guitar player than when you walked in here." So that felt good. I think I really fell in love with guitar actually doing this again. I've gone and spent a fortune on guitars. I was like, I can't get enough of it, and amps and heads and pedals, and it's been so much fun, sort of.
So you know where your salary goes when this world opens again.
Yes, exactly.
So when did you actually record this album? When were the recording sessions?
Man, you know what's so funny? Time over COVID has turned into just one big field. So
Yeah.
I don't know what, but I think if I'm correct, I think it was May. We spent. Did I go in February, March, April? I think we went in April and May because I'm pretty sure I missed my wife's birthday while I was in there. So yeah, I think it was April, May time. Could have been a bit before though. Time, like I said, time blows in together. But it was the beginning of 2021, and we were there for about 2 months.
Okay, so there weren't like any decisions to be made whether you would release it now or no. It was immediately that this is something that we want to put out as soon as possible.
We didn't actually have a plan on when we were going to release it. We went in there because we wanted to. You know, we wanted to rekindle as a band. We wanted to take this time off. If we're not on tour, we still want to be a band. We still wanted to be together to some extent, you know. And so we were like, let's go to the studio. I've been writing. I had so much material, and we went, okay. And there were no expectations as to when we were going to release anything. And so we finished the record, and we were maybe home for, I don't know, 2 weeks after this, and the label called us, Better Noise called us, and we're like, this is amazing. Like, this is such an incredible album. I was like, oh, thanks very much. They were like, no, we want to release this like now. And I was like, okay. And our manager was like, oh, okay. And ever since then, it was just like, let's go. And it happened so fast and so quick. I still can't believe that we've got an album coming out this year. It's wild.
So before we wrap things up, I want to ask you a bit about touring. So how do you see it yourself? Do you feel that you will react differently towards fans, for example? Or how do you see like yourself getting back on the road and playing shows?
You know, I'm in two minds about the whole thing, because it's hard. Being away from live music sucks for bands and for fans and music lovers. Live music is just such a staple in everyone's life, so it's a really hard thing. But I personally, I don't know that bands should be touring again until it's completely safe and we're ready to do so. That's just my personal opinion. I know we're going back out on the road soon, but I wonder if it's premature, because when I do go back out on the road, I want to see our fans. I want to hug them, and I want to high five, and I want to like be there with them. And
be normal.
Yeah, you know, I don't want to have to be like, oh, hey, what's up, and elbow bump them and then go and watch my magic. I don't want to do that, because I feel like there's no real connection there, and not because it's not that we don't want one. It's that how can I even put someone else in that position? I don't know. Say I'm traveling around from country to country or city to city, and then I'm going to go and shake someone's hand and I make them sick. I don't feel
or
right.
Get yourself sick and the rest of the tour is done.
Cancelled, ruined. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Or get sick on the road and not know, because I'm fully vaccinated, so maybe I get
me too,
sick, but I don't know, and then I come home and I bring it to my kids who can't get vaccinated. So I'm in two minds about it. I want to get back to it. I really do. I miss it. But I just don't know if now's the right time. But I'm not a doctor. I'm not a professional. I don't know. So I'm kind of just rolling with the punches.
Yeah, bouncing in your head what is the right way to do.
Yeah.
Exactly. Hey, Ben, thanks a lot for your time, and all the best for the release of the upcoming album. Anything you want to say as last words to all the Finnish fans who will be watching this afterwards?
Just thank you for your patience. I know it's been a really long time. I appreciate you guys. We all do. And I really genuinely hope you love this new album as much as we do. I think people are going to be surprised at what it sounds like, and pleasantly surprised, I hope. Yeah,
it's a very good album. Very solid album.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you.
So, hey, Ben, thanks a lot for the time, and all the best for the future. Hopefully to catch you in Finland sometime in 2022, I hope. Fingers crossed.
I hope so too.
But hey, thanks a lot, and it was nice catching up with you.
Of course, mate. You too. Thank you so much, man.
Take care.
Take care of yourself, mate. Cheers.
Yeah, bye.